Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For the members of the media that are on the call, I'm going to turn it over to Attorney General Plotkin of New Jersey to start his remarks in a minute. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end of this, and we just ask questions beyond topic. Thank you. And I'll turn over to Attorney General Plotkin.
Thanks, Michael, and good morning, everyone. We're here today this morning to announce a lawsuit which seeks to prevent the Trump administration's efforts to effectively legalize machine guns in this country. And yes, you heard me correctly on that point. The Trump administration is trying, under the guise of a settlement agreement, to legalize a weapon that lets the owner turn their firearms literally into automatic weapons. Federal law prevents civilians from owning a machine gun, and that includes machine gun conversion devices, which convert firearms into illegal automatic weapons, into machine guns. ATF for years has been keeping us safe from one such device, known as a forced reset trigger. And it's by recognizing that the forced reset triggers themselves are illegal machine guns. And they've seized almost 12,000 of them and have also sued the main distributor of these unlawful devices. And just for clarity, here's how a forced reset trigger works. A shooter needs to pull back the trigger only once and keep holding it back. And the machinery of the trigger will ensure that the gun keeps shooting until all bullets are out. A firearm equipped with a forced reset trigger can fire faster than an M16 military rifle in automatic mode. It can allow a novice shooter to fire multiple rounds in under a second and as many as 900 rounds in a minute. But in the dead of the night, under the cover again of a settlement agreement, quote unquote, the Trump administration in May reversed decades of precedent and not only stopped to enforce federal law against these dangerous machine gun conversion devices, even claiming to bind future administrations on that claim, but it also agreed to redistribute thousands of forced reset trigger devices that it had previously seized into communities across the United States, including in our states. So just think about that for a second. ATF, which is the agency in charge of enforcing our federal firearms laws and keeping our communities safe, will now for the first time be in the business of sending extremely dangerous devices into our cities and towns across the country. Indeed, public reporting on this issue has suggested that the U.S. Department of Justice forced this settlement over the objections of not only career ATF officials, but even the president's own political appointees at the agency. And the dangers here, I want to be clear, are extreme. Even novice shooters can shoot almost 1,000 rounds a minute with one of these devices. This unfathomable power serves one purpose: to kill as many people as possible in as little time as possible. ATF itself has recognized that FRTs are dangerous and that it was seeing more of them in commission of crimes across this country. But instead of keeping these illegal firearms off the streets, ATF will now be returning thousands of them to distributors and individuals, even though they remain illegal under federal law. Today, 16 attorneys general are filing a lawsuit, which I am proud to lead alongside my colleagues who are with us today, Attorney General Kathy Jennings of Delaware and Attorney General Anthony Brown of Maryland. We are suing to prevent this illegal behavior by the Trump administration and by the ATF. Our argument is very simple. Federal law bans machine guns, and FRTs have fit within that prohibition, just as ATF has always said. And because federal law bans forced reset triggers, a federal agency can't just simply distribute them across the country because, and this should be obvious, but in case it's not, federal agencies have to follow federal law, period. So we filed the complaint in the District of Maryland, and we're seeking a preliminary injunction to block the redistribution of forced reset triggers into our states. This is just part of what we're doing, both in New Jersey and across the states we're representing today, to combat gun violence. Although President Trump and his administration are standing up for the gun industry, he is prioritizing their profits over public safety. We, on the other hand, as attorneys general, are standing up for the safety of our residents and their right to live their lives without the fear that they may be gunned down by a shooter who can fire hundreds of rounds a minute without interruption. We're standing up for parents like myself who are sick and tired of living in a country where the number one cause of death for kids is a firearm. In New Jersey, we have some of the strictest firearms regulations in the nation because we believe that every one of the 9.5 million people who live in our state deserves to live free from fear of gun violence. We've taken an intelligence-based approach to law enforcement that has held violent offenders accountable. And we've invested in community-based approaches to violence that have reduced crime in our state. And we filed a number of lawsuits against bad actors in the firearms industry, making them pay for the bloodshed that they've caused. And make no mistake, these efforts are working. For 2 years running, 2023 and 2024, New Jersey has had the lowest level of gun violence we've ever seen since we've been tracking statistics. And this year, as of last week, we are 34% below where we were at this time last year. That's why we now are seeing about half the number of shootings in our state as we saw in 2012, and why you are 6 times more likely to be shot and killed in Mississippi, who I know is not in this lawsuit, than you are in New Jersey. We're not going to allow the Trump administration to unlawfully unleash carnage in our communities and turn back this progress. We simply won't allow him to try to turn New Jersey into Mississippi. On Saturday, like so many across the country, I attended Wear Orange events, recommitting ourselves to end the gun violence epidemic, and I'm wearing a Wear Orange pin. Saturday would have, by coincidence, also have been the 13th birthday of a little girl named Sequoia Bacon Jones, who in my second month in office was shot and killed not far from my office in Trenton, New Jersey. She had dreamed of becoming a law enforcement officer, but instead she was killed by a single stray bullet while she was playing hide and seek in the courtyard of her apartment complex. My office investigated alongside our county prosecutors and prosecuted that case. And I think about Sequoia a lot, as well as the other countless senseless tragedies across the nation, the children whose lives are lost and the others who fear being the next statistic. In New Jersey and in states in this coalition, we are doing everything we can to stop this pandemic, to save lives. And our efforts, as I said, are working. Every shooting that we prevent is a family that is celebrating a birthday party or a wedding or a holiday and not a funeral. They're not just statistics. I wish the Trump administration would recognize that and join us in that effort. I wish they would put little kids like Sequoia's interests ahead of the gun lobbies. I wish they would stop an ideological crusade that's been fueled by seemingly limitless campaign contributions from the gun lobby paid by blood money, who have clearly bought and sold the Justice Department and the ATF. I wish they would actually stop and think about the carnage that could ensue if you put 12,000 machine guns on the street, irrespective of whose hands they fall into. But since they don't seem to care, we're going to make them care. And that's what this lawsuit is going to do. It's just the latest example of our collective efforts to keep the public safe, which I think I speak for everyone in our coalition, remains our top priority. I want to thank my fellow AGs, especially AGs Jennings and Brown, who are joining us today, as well as their incredible teams who have worked very hard to bring this case. And it's now my honor to turn the mic over to Delaware Attorney General Kathy Jennings.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Attorney General Matt Platkin. Thank you, Attorney General Anthony Brown, for your leadership on this critical issue and for stopping gun violence in our region and across our nation. Today, we are suing to stop the federal government from flooding our communities with illegal machine gun conversion devices. Let me repeat that. We are suing to block the very agency tasked with protecting America from gun violence from handing out devices that can fire faster than many military-grade weapons. This is not a partisan issue. It is a public safety issue. Under both federal and state laws, these devices, forced reset triggers, create machine guns. Delaware banned rapid fire devices in 2022. The Trump administration's deal to redistribute these deadly devices violates the law, full stop. It undermines public safety and ties the hand of law enforcement. Like New Jersey, Delaware is seeing in our largest city historic low rates of gun violence. And that is due to the efforts of law enforcement, due to the prosecutions emanating from our office, and due to our efforts to get at the heart of what causes gun violence and make our communities safer. All of these efforts are paying off in ways that we have not seen in our largest city of Wilmington in decades. And so I say, what are we doing by introducing these devices into Wilmington and the state of Delaware writ large? No administration has the right to sign away our safety by defying federal law in a private settlement. These devices can fire up to 900 rounds per minute, faster than many military-grade machine guns. These devices are explicitly designed to skirt laws while turning semi-automatic firearms into weapons of war. Law enforcement officers are already seeing devices like this at crime scenes. The use of machine gun conversion devices in violent crimes, including drive-by shootings and police assaults, has exploded in recent years. The federal government is trying to introduce these devices back into states that have outlawed them. They will not be used for home defense or hunting. They will be used to kill innocents. They will be used to kill bystanders, and they will be used to kill police. And it will be the victims' families and state and local law enforcement who are left trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces of these tragedies. The ATF's about face came after career leadership was pushed out, placing politics over the law. It is absurd on its face, it is illegal, and it is dangerous. At a time when our law enforcement agencies are already overburdened, we will not allow a backdoor distribution of illegal devices into Delaware's neighborhoods, let alone by the federal government. We have the duty to enforce our own laws and to protect our residents. We take that duty seriously. I am honored to join the lead states of New Jersey, Maryland in this effort. It will save lives, and we will not stop fighting for the people in our states. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General Jennings, both for your work here and for a tireless commitment to combating gun violence. And the record in Delaware speaks for itself. And along similar lines, Attorney General Brown has been a staunch advocate to reduce gun violence in his state. I'm really proud to partner with him, and I thank him and his team again. And as I noted, we are filing this case in the District of Maryland. So, Attorney General Brown, floor is yours.
First of all, good morning, and thank you to General Platkin and General Jennings for your partnership, your leadership in protecting the residents of our states from the devastating impact of gun violence. And both of you have done extraordinary things in that regard. As General Platkin and General Jennings mentioned, force reset triggers allow semi-automatic firearms to be turned into fully automatic machine guns. These devices enable firearms to fire up to 900 bullets per minute. The increased rate of fire allows carnage and chaos to reign on the streets. Everyone nearby becomes vulnerable to serious injury or death. These are battlefield weapons that have no place in our communities. Since I was sworn in as Attorney General in January of 2023, my criminal division's organized crime unit has seized 274 guns of all types in connection with our investigations. My office, along with every law enforcement agency in the state, is doing the work to get illegal guns off the streets. Yet now we have an administration, the Trump administration, that wants to return machine gun components back into communities across this country. Putting those dangerous devices back in circulation will endanger everyone's lives, including Marylanders. It doesn't make any sense. But that's exactly what the Trump administration wants to do with this settlement. They want to give back nearly 12,000 forced reset triggers that the ATF has seized. That means everyone, even dangerous people and members of violent criminal organizations, will get back these deadly devices. This will enable them to inflict mass violence on our communities, our neighbors, and our children across the country. The Trump administration's settlement flies in the face of common sense. Here in Maryland, we've taken a different approach with proven gun reforms. Our General Assembly has passed laws that ban assault rifles, prohibit guns in sensitive places like hospitals and schools, require background checks and qualification licenses for handgun purchases, allow police or family members to petition courts to temporarily remove firearms from someone who poses a risk. These laws have withstood legal challenges. More importantly, they have saved lives. Our office didn't just defend these reforms, we've taken the fight directly to the firearms industry. Earlier this year, with authority granted by our General Assembly, we filed a lawsuit against firearms manufacturer Glock for designing and selling pistols that are uniquely susceptible to conversion into illegal machine guns. Each of these cases demonstrates that we understand there's no single solution to the gun violence crisis, but we will do whatever it takes to keep Marylanders safe, including filing the lawsuit that we are here to discuss today. Make no mistake, the Trump administration settlement will make Marylanders more vulnerable to mass shootings. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. We must take action. We must defend common sense gun laws that keep Marylanders and Americans safe. Thank you. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Anthony. And I'll ask Michael to moderate in a second. You know, I just was struck as I was listening to both of you speak and looking at the coalition of states that we have joining us. If you go on the federal government's website, I'm sure they'll take it down after I say this, you can see states ranked by levels of gun violence. And the states in our coalition are all clustered at the lowest levels of gun violence in the country. And the states that would welcome these machine guns in have the highest rates of gun violence in the country. So, you know, what the federal government is doing demonstrably will make people less safe. The evidence is so clear. There is no public safety argument for what they're doing. There's a cynical political argument that they want to get more campaign contributions or appease the gun lobby. But there's no public safety officer who is being honest with you in the country who will say putting machine guns, military grade machine guns that have been illegal under federal law for decades onto the street under the guise of a private settlement agreement makes us safe. So just remember that those of us on this call have some credibility here. And usually when you're in baseball, if you're creating a lineup, you don't try to make everybody like the number 9 hitter. You try to make everybody closer to the number 3 hitter. And the people on this call are the number 3 hitters based on the performance of our states in keeping people safe. With that, Michael, I'm happy to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Attorney General. So for the members of the media that have questions, please raise your hands and we will allow you to talk. We have William Ford from Maryland Matters.
Yes, good morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Attorney General Brown, good morning.
Morning, William.
I hear you're doing the co-lead on this effort here. Two quick questions, please. How many other states are going to be joining in this suit? That's my first question. And secondly, what message do you have for some gun owners in your respective states that will say, well, this is our Second Amendment right. We have every right to have whatever arms we carry. The government should stay out of it. What's your message for them, sir? Thank you.
Before I turn it over to Matt to talk about the specific numbers, let me say that this really isn't a Second Amendment issue, and the question of whether or not you can have a weapon of war like a machine gun has been resolved long ago in this country. We're not talking about shotguns. We're not talking about registered handguns. We're talking about devices that convert these firearms into weapons of war. And that is what's being taken off the street. In fact, William, and as you've joined me around the state of Maryland in town halls, the vast majority of firearm owners that I speak with who are responsible would agree that this device serves no purpose for them in whether their effort to self-defend, whether hunting, whether collecting. This converts a firearm into a very dangerous weapon. It's dangerous for law enforcement. It's dangerous throughout our communities. So that's my response, and I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thanks. Agreed with everything Attorney General Brown said. We have 16 states in the coalition that joined this filing, and I'm proud to join each and every one of them.
Thank you. So again, if you have a question, raise your hand. We'll call on you. The next question is from John Petrolino of the Penn Patriot.
Yes, good morning, Attorney General. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I have two and a half questions, if you'll indulge me. The first question that I have is per Bruin. I'm just curious, what is the historical analog from 1791 that says banning an FRT would be constitutional?
Hey, John, you don't get half questions, so you can do two questions. Second of all, you can read our brief, which is now public, and see all of our arguments. Third of all, as you know, courts have not conclusively said it has to be from 1791. There's an open legal debate about whether it's 1791 or the Reconstruction era. It's not really the point of this. The point of this is very simple. For decades, including post-Bruin, the federal government has considered machine gun conversion devices like forced reset triggers that convert firearms into automatic weapons that, as Attorney General said, has killed indiscriminately, including law enforcement officers, as machine guns. For a very simple reason, because we don't think, as a country, and consistent with the Second Amendment, that you have a right to own a firearm that is more lethal than the highest grade military machine guns. And so what the administration is doing here, not through a rulemaking, not through a statutory change, not through any type of legal action other than a private settlement agreement with private parties, they won't even tell us, or tell the public rather, who these machine guns will go back to. So could it be violent felons? Of course. Could it be domestic violence abusers? Of course. Could it be people who will sell to violent felons and domestic violence abusers? Of course. Want to put machine guns, 12,000 of them, into all of their hands. So we welcome the legal fight, but again, there isn't a single public safety expert in the country who is speaking honestly, who isn't bought and sold by the gun lobby, who would tell you that putting machine guns on streets save lives. Period.
Okay.
What's your
all right,
second question?
Yep, thank you for that, AG. The second one is in U.S. versus Cargill, they extensively covered, machine gun action, and that's settled precedent. And they made it clear that it has to do with the single function of the trigger. Doesn't an FRT require multiple functions of the trigger? It's not
No.
one single function.
No, it is one single function, and we lay this out in the brief. You pull the trigger back and hold it, and it will continuously fire. And I would note, and I'll just finish with this, and then we can move on. The attorney for the plaintiffs in Cargill, at oral argument, said the question would be much more complicated than bump stocks for force reset triggers. So by their own admission, this is a different legal issue. And again, one pull of the trigger, holds it down, fire 900 rounds a minute. If that's not a machine gun, I don't know what is. Michael, are there any other questions?
Not seeing any currently. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. That concludes this press conference. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to our office. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, my
Thank you.
colleagues.